Hello, welcome to ThunderSteve85's gaming channel. And if you're new here to the channel, please do me a favor, like the video, share it with your friends and family, and subscribe to the channel. Now, without further ado, we're going to be talking about, I think a topic that I need to tackle, okay? Now, I'm a fan of these tier maker lists. I think they're good fun. But really, I've been gaming since the 80s, right? And people always ask me, like, dude, what are your favorite games? You know, what are your favorite Zelda games? What are your favorite Mario, Castlevania, you name it. And it's like, man, 30 years have went by for so many of these franchises, some even longer. And I've never really taken the time to think about, okay, like, I love them all, right? But which ones are my actual favorites? Which ones are excellent tier, great tier, good, okay, never played? So I figured, hey, you know what? We're going to start a new series today where I go through all the games and we're going to discuss where they go and why, okay? So without further ado, again, this is my first time doing this, so bear with me. I'm excited to do it though. We're going to talk Zelda because I've played all these games. Played all of them when they came out. Some I've played more. You know, numerous times I've beaten them. So I have a very good feel for the subject matter here. Okay? Now, first on the list, Breath of the Wild. Now, where does this go, right? I think that's pretty easy. That's definitely going to go on the excellent tier. That's top tier, literally, figuratively. Of course, I got Zelda Breath of the Wild on day one. I actually have the Master Edition. I was the only one who got that edition at my local Best Buy. They had one that came in. I pre-ordered it immediately, and thankfully I happened to get it. But when I found out that nobody else got it, I felt kind of bad. But of course, I've been playing Zelda again like since the 80s, so I didn't feel like that bad, but I just felt bad that, you know, everyone else didn't have an opportunity to get it. I was like, you guys only got one in? So I guess it was really hard to get. Obviously, I still have it. I still have the box for it and everything like that. Now, Breath of the Wild, obviously it changed Zelda as we know it. Became fully open world. You know, go wherever you want, whenever you want. It wasn't as structured, of course, as all the other Zelda games we played where, you know, you go to this dungeon and you grab that item, and then you have to use that item in the next dungeon or to open up the next area. You know, you still have a little bit of that throughout the game, but it's not that systematic formula where you have to go a certain place to open a certain door to get past a certain part, which, you know, I like, obviously. Open world games, that's kind of like the future of gaming. Most games have went open world. I mean, we just had Sonic. Yeah, Frontiers basically go open world, open zone as they call it. So, you know, we see a lot of games doing that, and obviously, Tears of the Kingdom will be following the same formula here on May 12th, which, of course, I can't wait. I got the special edition pre-ordered as well. So with that out of the way, I think that was pretty obvious, and I gotta imagine a lot of people are going to be saying that's excellent. We're gonna move on to Link's crossbow training for the Wii. Yes, I did play this game, and I thought it was pretty fun. You know, as far as Zelda games go, though, I mean, it's a spin-off title, right? I'm gonna put it in the okay. Okay? It's not bad, it's just okay. And as you can see here on this tier list, I did not make this tier list. Obviously, somebody else did. And I'm just going to work through it, but there are no bad Zelda games. And I have to say that's accurate outside of two games on this list. I think you guys are going to know which two games those are. But that's definitely bad. We'll discuss that at the end. We'll focus on the positive here, okay? So the next one is the Zelda Four Swords Adventures. And this was on, judging by the screenshot, this was the one on the GameCube. And you had to have well, I was going to say 4 Game Boy Advances. You could have up to 4 GBAs connected to the GameCube, which like that was Nintendo's push back in the day. I think this came out. I remember I was in high school. Might have been like 2003 that it came out. It might have been my senior year. But this was really cool because, to be honest with you, like we all had Game Boy Advances. So this wasn't a big deal. Like it wasn't hard to track down friends that had GBAs. Like we all had them. So we actually played this game and it was really fun. I wouldn't say it was like groundbreaking by any means, but we had a good time. And so I'm going to give it good. Okay, it was a good game. It was fun. It was a novel idea. I liked what Nintendo was trying there. So we'll give it a good rating, okay? Moving on, we have another Zelda 4 Swords. This is the one for GBA, if I recall. So I'm just going to put it here in the good one, and we're just going to move on. So next we have Hyrule Warriors. This game was fun. It definitely, you know, it had a lot of Zelda characters in it. A lot of the items, you know, a lot of the music, the weapons. It was cool. I enjoyed it. I am going to give it a good rating. I don't think it's great, but I think it was good. It was pretty good. You know, I would play it again. I would refer people to play it. I still think it was great, okay? Because we're talking Zelda here. So, for the Zelda series, it was good. Okay, next we have Zelda Link Between Worlds. And I bought a 3DS the day it came out. I still have my 3DS. I still have Link Between Worlds, Ocarina of Time, and Majora's Mask, all for 3DS. I loved my 3DS, and I thought this game was phenomenal, to be perfectly honest. I enjoyed it so much. It definitely had like vibes of Link to the Past, almost like it could be like an indirect sequel at times. I really enjoyed it. I've only beat it one time. This is definitely a game I would revisit. But I remember like using obviously like the 3D mechanic in the game. And then I remember being able to, like, if I recall, like transport through walls, which was like, had something to do with the game being on 3DS. Again, it's a little fuzzy. I'm going to definitely have to revisit this one. But I know that I loved it so much. And I'm actually going to give this a... Now, not everyone might not agree with this. But honestly, for what it was, I thought it was excellent. Okay? So there you have it. So next here, we have A Link to the Past. Now, this is another game that I got right when it came out. I think it came out in 92, if I recall, here in the U.S. Maybe 91. I think it was 92, though, in the U.S., in the North American market. And this is a game that I own. I own my original copy still. The battery still works in there for the save. Absolutely love Link to the Past. What's not to love about it? You have a light world, you have a dark world, you have all the different items in the game. There's tons of items in this game. The soundtrack was phenomenal, the dungeon design, the bosses. I mean, I'll tell you one thing I remember specifically about this Zelda was getting stuck on Death Mountain when you turn into a bunny. Now, you might say it's a rabbit. I don't know. I thought it was a bunny, like the pink bunny. And I swear to you, I had to walk away from the game so many times back in the day. Now, if I recall, I believe I was probably 8 years old, maybe 9 around this time. And I think a couple of months seriously went by where I couldn't figure this out. And I would not look up how to do this. Now, you got to remember, we didn't have internet back then. So, like, looking up how to do something meant, like, hey, you're going to go to like the grocery store and go down the magazine aisle and hope there's some like tips and tricks in the Nintendo Power or something like that. Or you're going to hope your Nintendo Power subscription tells you how to beat this. You know what I mean? Like, there was no way I was going to be allowed to call the 1-800 number. I think I did that one time and I got totally busted because, of course, you know, calling Nintendo's 1-800 number shows up on the itemized phone bill. And yeah, I remember getting in trouble for doing that once. So never again was I going to do that. At any rate, playing this game was magical. Everything about it. It was, if you liked the original Zelda, which I did. In fact, that was the first Nintendo game that I got to like buy for myself as a kid, you know, with like some birthday money, was Zelda on NES. So I have very fond memories of it. So obviously Link to the Past was, you know, what you were looking for. It was Zelda on NES, but with Super Nintendo graphics, sound, everything was better. You know, it wasn't broken. The formula was never broken, kind of thing. Like they just perfected it on the Super Nintendo. And so for me, this is easily excellent tier. Okay, next we have Link's Awakening. And as you can see here, this is like the DX version, which makes sense that they put it on here. It is like the best version, clearly, for Game Boy. Now the DX version, you can see right here, it even says on the box there's an extra dungeon. I got this game again. I got it the day it came out. I remember getting it at Best Buy. I was super excited to play it with my Atomic Purple Game Boy Color. And Link's Awakening is fantastic. I seriously, I love the soundtrack in this game. I forget the town. What was it? Coquitlam Island, whatever it was. But the town music like sticks in my head all the time to this day. And I'm 37, dude. So the fact that I still can recall much of the tunes in this game, I think says a lot. Obviously, it was limited by being played on the Game Boy, but I don't think that makes it any worse of a game just because it was on the Game Boy and it didn't have, you know, state-of-the-art graphics or anything like that. So personally, for me, I think this game definitely is going to be, yes, excellent tier. Because this was the best Game Boy Zelda, in my opinion. And there's some other Game Boy Zeldas in here. Obviously, there's some DS ones as well that we'll get to. But I just thought this game was absolutely phenomenal. I love it. Okay, so next we have Majora's Mask on 3DS. And as I can see here, the next one's Majora's Mask for 64. Now, 3DS Majora's Mask, again, pre-ordered, played it on day one. Absolutely loved it. It was probably the best way to play it. I think the company was Grezzo. You know, obviously they updated the graphics. Things were easier to do, like the functionality, quality of life improvements. You had a lot of that in the game. Obviously, you know, it took advantage of the Nintendo 3DS, the 3D slider feature. So I'm going to go ahead and give this, I'm going to give it great. And I'm also going to give Majora's Mask for 64 great. Now I know some people absolutely love Majora's Mask, and I respect your opinion and your thoughts on the game, okay? Now, one thing I didn't like, and I still, to this day, I don't like about Majora's Mask, is the fact that you always felt rushed. You know, like there's always a clock going. And I get that that's part of the game, is that like the moon's falling. You know, I get that. But I really enjoy exploring in Zelda games. That's one of the things I love more than anything, is just going around and exploring. You know, like I don't use guides. I go and explore. I see things for myself. I like to take my time, take it all in. And you really couldn't do that in this game, in my opinion. Like you had to keep the ball rolling constantly. You couldn't, stop and smell the roses here. And that's one thing that really took me away from fully enjoying this game as much as I think I could have. So that's kind of where I stand with Majora's Mask. And also, collecting all the masks, I wasn't like a fan of the mask in Ocarina of Time. So, the fact that most of your item collecting revolves around collecting masks, wasn't like a huge fan of that. But once I started playing, I'm like, all right, this is fine. I would prefer the other items, but this is fine. It's still Zelda. It's still great. And so that's why it gets a great rating, okay? All right, so next here we have Master Quest. Obviously we have, I'm going to kind of move these three together here, because we have Ocarina of Time Master Quest, we have 3D, and we have Zelda on 64. And I guess I'll just start by talking about Zelda on 64. So obviously, Super Nintendo, Link to the Past Zelda, that came out in, I'm going to say 92. If I recall, in North America, it was 92. I'm not going to look it up right now, but I'm going to say 1992. Okay. Now, obviously, you guys know that it was such a huge step forward going from Super Nintendo to Nintendo 64. And we even saw it with many 64 games. We saw it with PlayStation. Franchises that did really well growing up in 2D on NES, the Super Nintendo, the Sega, whatever. When they went to 3D, it was a crapshoot. You didn't know if the game was going to be good or not. You didn't know if they were going to know how to, develop the game in 3D. How was the transition going to be? And with 64, we really didn't know. Obviously, with Mario 64, people's confidence level really started growing for Zelda. So hey, dude, if Nintendo could take, the Super Mario 2D side-scrolling formula, and this is what Miyamoto gave us with Super Mario 64, we're good, dude. We're going to be fine. Nintendo knows how to do this. And so I think a lot of our confidence really started growing because we're like, okay, I'm not that worried then about Zelda making the transition to 3D, because if they can do what they did with Mario 64 and bring that to Zelda, then we're in damn good shape. And thankfully, that's exactly what happened. But you guys got to understand that from the Super Nintendo, Zelda, Link to the Past to 64, we had to wait 6 years. If I recall, Ocarina of Time came out November, I think it was 21st or 23rd of 1998. It came out I think the Friday before Thanksgiving, if I recall. And obviously I had the game pre-ordered. I had it pre-ordered at Best Buy, the collector's edition. And I was so excited because 6 years as a kid waiting for the next Zelda, it does feel like an eternity. You got to remember back then, we didn't have trailers dropping. You know what I mean? We had screenshots. We had to look to Nintendo Power. I remember there was these old tech demo screenshots of what Ocarina of Time was supposed to look like, or what it could look like. I think it was in an old Prima. If you guys remember Prima, Prima. It's in an old Prima book that was a preview for 64 games. I think I probably still have it in a box somewhere. But I think it was 2 or 3 screenshots. And if I recall, those screenshots were probably from Space World. I'm guessing 96, which, if you guys don't know what Space World is, it was in Japan, and it was Japan's E3. And Nintendo always had a huge presence at Space World. It was something I always looked forward to. And as we get later into the list, I'll talk a little bit more actually about another title and Space World and what ended up resulting there. But it It's a pretty classic story. Nonetheless, hey dude, when I popped this game in, when I got home, I mean, this was like earth-changing. It changed your life. And I'll even say this, like I was in 8th grade and I pretended to be sick for a whole week. I kid you not, like I swear on my life, I was out of school for the whole week that this came out. And I think my mom might have known that like I was BSing, but she also knew like how much I loved Zelda. And when my mom would leave for work, she would come in the room and she'd say, you know, obviously like since you're homesick, you need to rest. You know, you need to sleep. So you can't be playing Nintendo 64 all day. So I'm going to take the Nintendo 64 controllers, okay? And I'll give them to you when I get home. When I get home, you can play some. But you need to sleep during the day, right? And I'm like, oh my God, are you serious? Yeah, like I was like, shit, my plan's not going to work. So of course, you know, I don't know if my mom's going to watch this video. But of course, after my mom left and went to work, I had to go search for the controllers, right? And obviously I only needed one controller. So I'd search for it. I'd find it. I'd play it all day. I'd know my mom was coming home. I'd turn off the 64 like at least 30 minutes before she was going to get home. That way the 64 could cool down. And my TV, I'd turn that off. That way that would cool down. I'd put the 64 controller right back where it was with the wires, you know, rolled up on the controller exactly how it should be. And I put it right back. And I was able to play all week. So it was awesome. I beat the game. I remember coming back to school the next week. Everyone's like, dude, are you okay? Like, you were out for a whole week. I'm like, dude, I've never been better, man. Like, I just stayed home all week and played Zelda. And everyone's like, what? You weren't even sick, dude? Are you serious? So I think people still remember that story from school. And I had my 20-year reunion this year. So obviously it was a long time ago. I had my 20-year reunion for high school. This was in 8th grade. This was in 98. So suffice to say, guys, hey, I have the fondest memories from Zelda Ocarina of Time. It made the jump to 3D perfectly. And you got to remember, this was during a day and age where once the game's released, that's it. You know, you can't patch it. It's got to be perfect. And Mr. Miyamoto was very clear about that. He had a great quote, if I can recall it, but it was to the effect that, hey, once a game comes out, if it's bad forever. You know, and basically that if the game's not ready, you need to delay it because you're not going to have a chance to fix it. And I know I'm totally butchering this, guys, but you know what I'm saying. Back then, there was no option. The game had to be exactly what you wanted it to be because you weren't going to be able to fix it. So clearly, Zelda on 64, Ocarina of Time, that's excellent. That's the cream of the crop. Now, Master Quest, it's going to go right there because obviously Master Quest, it was a tougher Zelda. And if I recall, the dungeons are flipped. So I absolutely love Master Quest. It's Ocarina of Time, but harder. So why would I not like that, right? And then Ocarina of Time 3D. I absolutely love this game. It's the same as Majora's Mask. If I loved Majora's Mask as much as I love Ocarina of Time, I would put it in the excellent category, but I just don't. So Ocarina of Time 3D is definitely going to be excellent there. Okay, so next up we have Minish Cap again. This came out on GBA. This came out when I was in high school. I had this game pre-ordered. I played a lot of it in high school in class on my GBA SP. And I really enjoyed Minish Cap. It took a while actually to grow on me, which I wasn't really expecting. Minish Cap was part of the Capcom 3 of the 3 Zelda games we got. Originally, if I recall, Oracle of Ages and Seasons, there was supposed to be 3 games originally, like the Triforce. And it ended up turning into 2 games, and then Capcom ended up making Minish Cap. Both of these games actually came out while I was in high school. And I actually have them on my shelf over here. I still have them in the box complete. And I absolutely love these games. But for Minish Cap, I'm going to go great. And Oracle of Ages and Seasons, I'm going to go great. If you guys have not played these games, you should totally play them. There's no reason to not play them. I have to believe that Ages and Seasons will come out on the Nintendo Switch Online now that they have the Game Boy emulator on there. Link's Awakening is already on there, and if I recall, Minish Cap was released as a launch title for the GBA on the Nintendo Switch Online. And Oracle of Ages and Seasons, I can't remember. I was watching the Nintendo Direct, but I just, I don't recall because I wasn't planning on like replaying through them. But these games, interact with each other. So you'd be best to play both. If you haven't played them, like I said, you guys totally should. Because they should not be overlooked. They are excellent games, and they deserve to be played and beaten by every Zelda fan, in my opinion. We're going to go great there. So next up, we have some interesting titles. First one is going to be Zelda Phantom Hourglass. And then we have Spirit Tracks. So both of these games came out on Nintendo DS. And I feel like Nintendo really forced us to use the touchpad. We had to control the game using the touchpad and stylus. And I didn't know how I was going to feel about that. I know that in watching the previews for it, I'm like, dude, I don't know. I don't know if I'm going to like this. But again, I was trying to keep an open mind because I absolutely love Zelda. And I trust Nintendo, okay? And so, of course, I played both of them. I got them both the day they came out. I enjoyed Phantom Hourglass more than I did Spirit Tracks, but I enjoyed both games. I'm going to say both games are... Let's say Spirit Tracks is good. I'm going to say Phantom Hourglass. It's probably good. Again, I really feel like they forced the touch stylus controls, and I just was not a huge fan of that. For what it's worth, I enjoyed Phantom Hourglass a lot more than Spirit Tracks, because Phantom Hourglass's story kind of tied into Wind Waker's. And so if you liked Wind Waker and you haven't played Phantom Hourglass, go check it out, because you get more story. You get more of the whole Wind Waker story, and I don't want to say why, but it's totally worth playing, okay? All right, so next up we have Skyward Sword. Now this one was fun. Obviously this came out for the Wii, and it's in the similar category as what we just discussed with Phantom Hourglass and Spirit Tracks, in that obviously you had the motion controls, and there wasn't really a traditional way of playing it. You're playing it with the nunchuck and Wiimote. If I recall, this was it had Wii Motion Plus, which was good. Someone correct me if I'm wrong on that in the comments section, but I think it had the Wii Motion Plus, which of course was the improved version of the Wiimote. And I thought the game was really good. I enjoyed it. I remember playing it actually when I lived in San Diego, and I was working like some crazy hours, and I remember that I had what was it? I had an emergency appendectomy. So my appendix almost exploded, and I had to get emergency surgery. And so, of course, like, what happens, guys? Like, what happens when you're homesick as a kid? Like, if you're anything like me, you get to play a lot of video games. You're resting, but you play a lot of video games. So, of course, as an adult, if I recall, this happened in maybe 2012, 2011, 12. Again, as years go on, it's harder to remember. So I don't know if that's completely accurate, but I had the emergency appendectomy. I was off work for, I think, maybe 2 weeks, maybe longer. But of course, that gave me the opportunity to sit back, relax. I had to rest, and I got to play through Skyward Sword. I got to play through the whole thing and beat it uninterrupted. Didn't have to worry about, going to work, coming home exhausted. I was a restaurant manager for a very long time, so, long hours, 12, 13-hour shifts, on your feet all day, you're very tired. And so I got to experience Skyward Sword I think kind of in the perfect setting that you would want to. Optimal setting as an adult. No distractions. And what else did I like about it? I remember that I liked the dungeons. The motion controls really didn't bother me. And again, I know it bothered a lot of people. Graphically speaking, I do remember the graphics. I felt like they kind of looked a little washed out. I did have the component cables for the Wii, so I think that helped a little bit to sharpen them up versus obviously using the standard composite cables. So that helped a little bit. I'm gonna go great, guys. Okay, it wasn't excellent. It's not the excellent, the S tier, but it was a great game. Have I revisited? I have on Switch the Skyward Sword HD. So I am planning to revisit it. I have not done it yet, but I will. And maybe that one will get up to the excellent tier. I don't know. Okay, next we have Zelda Triforce Heroes. And honestly, I thought this game sucked. And there's no tier for sucks. So I'm just going to put it as okay, but you heard it from me. I thought that game sucked. Okay. All right, next we have Twilight Princess and Twilight Princess HD for the Wii U. And this is wild. I have Zelda Twilight Princess on GameCube. I have it on Wii. And I have it on Wii U. So, I love Twilight Princess. I thought it was excellent. To me, Twilight Princess is what the fans really wanted back in the day. If you weren't following Zelda, or you're younger and you weren't at that age where you were into the Zelda games yet, Twilight Princess is what we wanted Wind Waker to be. Because it's like, hey, we got this, Nintendo GameCube. It's actually a powerful system. Back when Nintendo, still tried to make graphically powerful systems. I think the GameCube, it's safe to say, was the last one that they tried to make a graphically powerful system. And so we were excited. We're like, oh, dude, we're finally going to get a realistic looking Zelda. And obviously, for the first outing, that's not what we got. We got Wind Waker, which was a Toon Link Zelda. When I say Zelda, Toon Link Zelda game, obviously. There's Toon Link in there. And, a lot of people were mixed at best on it. I remember, back in the day, being on, the IGN message boards. And if I recall, the Planet GameCube website, I think it was Billy Berghammer who ran that website, created it, and I used to go there all the time for my gaming news. And so I was on the message boards on Planet GameCube and IGN, and dude, there was a lot of hate back then. It was, like I said, it was mixed at best. But then once the game came out, a lot of people changed their tune and were like, all right, you know what? This game was actually really good. The graphics actually fit the game really well, and people really did enjoy it. But at the same time, everyone was hoping that, hey, I hope the next Zelda is realistic and that, we don't do the cell shaded thing anymore. It was cool. I like the game, but can we get back to what we all wanted? And that's what leads me back to the Space World discussion. Is, if I recall, it was Space World 2001, where there was a tech demo shown off, and it was of Link fighting Ganon. And I think it was kind of like trying to recreate the fight with, with Ganondorf and Ocarina of Time, where he's, flying through the paintings. I think they were trying to kind of give us an idea of what that scene would look like on GameCube hardware. And the tech demo was beautiful. And that's what got everyone so excited, because that was in 2001. Everyone's like, okay, this is what Zelda could look like. This is going to be awesome. And then we got Wind Waker, which was not that. And so I think that's what actually probably let a lot of people down as well. So anyways, long story short, guys, try to make this shorter, is Twilight Princess really filled that void. It gave us the realistic looking Zelda, and I absolutely love this game. I really do. I thought the dungeons were awesome. I thought the bosses were awesome. The items were awesome. I don't have enough really good things to say about this game, so that's definitely going up here with the excellent. And this is Zelda, guys, so there's going to be a lot of excellent games here. All right. Next, we have the Wind Waker. Again, pre-ordered. Got it on day one. By pre-ordering Wind Waker, which I don't see on this list, but by pre-ordering it, you got the... Where is it? This guy. The Zelda promotional disc. Actually, you know what? What's this? What you got? Yeah. Includes playable demo. Yeah, that's right. Includes playable demo of Wind Waker. Yeah, right on the back there. But at any rate, yeah, you got this. And this was rad. And this should be on the list, but it's okay. It's a compilation of games. Obviously, Nintendo had 2 different promotional discs back then. They had the one... And I'm getting confused, but I remember they had the Ocarina of Time and Ocarina of Time Master Quest. And that came out on GameCube. I have that over there on my shelf. And then they had the promotional disc. And maybe the promotional disc, that might have been a GameCube pack-in, if I recall now. Memory's a little fuzzy there, but nonetheless, they're not on the list. But they should be. Okay, so we have Wind Waker. Again, like I said, I pre-ordered this game. Absolutely loved it. The only thing is that I thought the game, guys, was a little short. And if you've played through it and you've played through other Zelda games, I'm going to guess and say you're probably going to agree with me. Okay? So, this does not get the excellent rating because, honestly, I wish the game would have been a lot longer. One of the most memorable things for me about Wind Waker, I would say the ocean theme, the song, the music that plays, absolutely incredible. It was an amazing theme, one that still sticks with me to this day. And I'm not going to give any spoilers because I know, honestly, there's still people who have not played this game. But the end of the game, the last dungeon, the setting, the atmosphere, how everything unravels, that was freaking cool. That's something that's really stuck with me over the years. I'm like, that was a really, really rad ending. And honestly, that ending almost gets it to the excellent tier, but not quite. So guys, if you've played Wind Waker and like maybe you never finished it or you've never played it at all, definitely play the game. If you've played it and you haven't finished it, get to the end. You have to see the ending. The last probably hour of the game was like, it gave you goosebumps kind of game. It was very special. Wind Waker HD again. It's going to be in the great tier. The graphics were already really good, and one thing about cell shaded graphics is, for the most part, they stand the test of time. And so, yeah, it was cool. We got an HD version. I don't think it was like totally needed as far as HD. There were some quality of life improvements that were added. That, obviously with like using the Wii U gamepad that you're able to add in. And I think if I recall, they fixed part of the game with the treasure, with getting the treasures in the sea. Again, I don't want to go into details because, again, there are some people who probably have not played this game. But totally worth playing. If you can play it on GameCube or Wii U, I think that one really doesn't matter. If we're talking Twilight Princess, it did look much better in HD. So if you can play the HD version, play it. If not, it's fine on the GameCube. Okay, next one we have The Adventures of Link. Okay, now there's a lot of people who don't like this game for a variety of reasons. One is it ditched the overhead formula from the original Legend of Zelda and went with a side-scrolling formula. And it's kind of interesting, guys. Like, if you grew up playing regular Nintendo and you think about it, we had Zelda 2 ditch the formula. We have Castlevania 2 Simon's Quest, ditched the formula. We have Super Mario Bros. 2, aka Doki Doki Panic, ditched the kind of standard Mario tried and true formula. So I don't know what was up with like the number 2 games in the series, but those 3 series, Mario, Castlevania, and Zelda, specifically stand out to me. And I know a lot of people didn't like them. Me, on the other hand, I gotta say, like, I absolutely loved it. I love how hard the game is. I beat the game. It's very hard. I'm not gonna lie, like, it's not for the faint of heart at all. It is a tough game. I enjoyed the dungeons. I enjoyed the crypticness of it. I enjoy the guy in the town whose name is Air. Like literally E-R-R-O-R. I'm sure you guys know this if you're watching this video. There was a character called Error in the game. And I believe it was probably an error on the translation team, right? But so much of this game I love. The music in it was excellent. The town music, the town BGM, the dungeons. It was just it was a unique game. Do I think it's excellent? I do not. Okay, I just think it should get more love than it gets. So this doesn't go into okay. It doesn't go into good, but it goes into the great in my book. Okay, and again, you don't have to agree with my opinions, but this is how I feel about this game. I really enjoyed it, and you got to remember, like growing up in the 80s with the regular Nintendo, you had Zelda 1, which we'll get to that in a second. And then you had Zelda 2, and then you didn't have a Zelda game for like, 4 years with A Link to the Past. So even if we didn't like Zelda 2 in the beginning, which I think a lot of us probably didn't like in the beginning and maybe it grew on us, but once you let it grow on you, it actually became a great title, much like Castlevania 2 Simon's Quest. So I think if I recall, and again, turning the clock back to the late 80s now, but if I recall, I revisited this game many times, and I was determined to beat this game and see it through, because I absolutely love the Legend of Zelda games. And again, once you beat Zelda, NES, Link's Adventure, and Link to the Past, and of course Link's Awakening, you didn't have anything for 6 years until Ocarina of Time. So you had plenty of time to go back to Zelda 2 and try and like it, and I think I did that. I think that's what I ended up doing. I think I always liked it, but I ended up loving it. So it's going to get a great rating. And based on how I explained that, you might have thought, damn, Steve, I thought maybe that should be an excellent based on how much you liked it. We're not going to go that far, okay? It's not on the tier of Breath of the Wild or Link to the Past or Ocarina of Time, okay? So next I'm going to go here. We have the original OG Legend of Zelda. This is the first Zelda game I ever bought. If I recall, it was for my 5th birthday that I got to buy this. I had played it before. My brothers had rented the game, and I watched them play it. It was very hard for them. They didn't like it because of how hard it was and because they weren't able to get far and they'd get stuck a lot. And me, I was just sitting back in the cut watching them play, and I'm like, dude, I think I could figure this out, is what I'm thinking. And I'm like 4 years old watching them play it. Of course, they didn't hand the controller to me and let me try and play. It was a game that I absolutely loved everything about it. I loved that it was like cryptic and that you're going around exploring and you don't know where you're going. Everything's a secret. You can burn bushes and there might be a secret passageway. You can get rings, so you can get different color tunics. You got the boomerang, the bow and arrow. You got the white sword. You have the master sword that, if I recall, the master sword was, if I recall, it was in the graveyard after you push one of the gravestones. You had the flute, red potion, blue potion, the map you got to give to the old lady. You had the ladder. You had the raft. There were just a lot of cool items in the game that kind of opened up the traversal more. This is where it all started. Obviously, using the raft in the game opened up more of the map. That's how you're able to access, if I recall, it was level 3 or 4, 3rd or 4th dungeon. You're able to get heart pieces by using the raft. And then, of course, the ladder. You need the ladder to, if I recall, beat either level 5 or 6. Level 8 was hidden. The last level 9, was hidden. Both of them had hidden passageways to even get there. What else did you have? You had the magical rod. That was cool. It was like a magical wand. I think it was called wand. I don't remember. I'd have to watch the intro credits again on Legend of Zelda to see what the item was called. But it was just a magical game. The puzzle elements to it on trying to figure out how to beat certain bosses. If I recall, was it the Dodongo? One of them you had to use the flute or the whistle. And the sound made the boss explode a little bit to where you could actually fight it. You had the bombs that you had to feed the guys. You had the grumble where you had to get a piece of meat and give it to one of the characters in order to progress in a dungeon. You had walls you could walk through, but you had to push on the wall on the D-pad for a few seconds before you could go through the wall. Then not to mention all the different walls you could bomb. I mean, you had to really try stuff out and figure it out on your own. There was no way to know how to beat this game. Again, there was no internet, and me being in school, nobody else was playing this game. Some people were, but people didn't know how to get far in it, right? I think they kind of, I wouldn't say quit, but things got tough and they walked away from the game, and I was just determined to beat it. So very, very, very fond memories of this game. Fond memories of buying it at Target on my 5th birthday. That was a whole nother story I'll kind of tell you real quick, but my mom takes us to Target, and she brings my oldest brother, Richard, who is 5 years older than me. So he was 10. And mom takes me over to the video game section. The whole point of going to Target was to get me my birthday present, which I wanted a Nintendo game. I already knew what game I wanted. Clearly, I wanted The Legend of Zelda. Wanted the gold cartridge, the gold box. And I absolutely loved the game. I wanted to play it for myself and beat it. And I think part of it was I wanted to prove to my brothers that I could beat it, a game that you guys quit on because it was too hard. And that's the competitive spirit in me. We go there, and I pick out Zelda, and my oldest brother, Richard, stops my mom. He's like, Mom, I wouldn't let Steven buy this, because we played this game and it's way too hard and he's going to hate it. He's not going to like it. And then he's going to be mad they didn't end up buying this game. And I was so pissed because my mom, she went with what he said and she wouldn't let me buy it. It's like, dude, it's my birthday. I never get to pick out a game for myself. It's finally my time, as a kid, that I get to pick out the game, and I didn't get to. So I had to pick a different game. And so I ended up picking Adventure Island, which I was upset about. I was upset. And I didn't want to throw a fit because it's like, dude, it's nice that I get to go get a game. But at the same time, like inside, I was really upset, like extremely. So I get home, we open it up, play the game. And my mom comes in, I think like 2 hours later, maybe an hour. Wasn't that long. And she's like, how do you like the game? I could tell by her tone, even back then, that she knew how I was liking the game. Not that much. It's a fine game. I have it in my collection. I have all the Adventure Islands, in fact. But it wasn't The Legend of Zelda. It wasn't the game that I wanted. Like I had plans. I had plans to get this game and beat it. And so, honestly, I was really upset. And I told my mom, I was honest with her. I'm like, honestly, Mom, I'm really upset. I really want The Legend of Zelda. And just because Richard or my brother John can't beat it, doesn't mean I can't beat it. Because I think I can. And I really want it to get this game. And I wanted to prove that, too. And so, my mom's like, well, their policy. Because, of course, like 5 years old, yeah, we know Target's policy. We know Toys R Us. Once the game's opened, like, you can't return it. And they're real sticklers about it. And you guys know that's how it is today, too, with, buying disc-based games. But back then, they were super strict about it. And so Mom's like, well, we can go to Target and try. She's like, I'll do that. We'll go back to Target and I'll try. We'll ask to speak to the manager of, the video game department, and I'll explain to him what happened. So we go there, and I remember, like, even on our way there, my mom was, like, kind of laying the foundation for how this trip might go. Like, hey, just so you know, like, I don't know if this is going to work kind of thing, but we'll give it a try. So, at any rate, we get there. My mom talks to the manager. I don't remember what she said, but they made the classic one-time exception. And I was so happy that this was actually happening, that I was going to get the game I wanted. Like, I had to work for it, guys. Even on your birthday, like, I had to really work to get this Zelda game. And at any rate, we ended up getting it. I was absolutely thrilled. That was my Legend of Zelda story. So it was even hard to get the damn game. So for me, even to this day, and I've replayed it, I've even played some of the Legend of Zelda hacks that are out there. If you've never played it, I'm going to give a shout out to the Legend of Zelda Outlands. Excellent, excellent NES Zelda hack. I think it came out a long time ago, like 2007. I have it in cartridge format on my shelf over here. But if you guys have never played it, I kid you not, you would think that this game was made by Nintendo themselves. It feels like a direct sequel to the original Legend of Zelda. So again, that's the Legend of Zelda Outlands. If you've never played it, find a way to play it, okay? You can buy the cartridge out there. It'll work in your regular Nintendo. There's lots of different ways to play this game, okay? So figure it out if you're interested. Because Outlands, to me, like I said, it feels like a direct sequel to Zelda. So if it was on this list, I would actually put it in the excellent tier. All right, so that's where that goes. Excellent. And to cap it all off, we have these stupid Philips CDI Legend of Zelda games. I forget what they're called. One's, I think, Wand of Gamelon. Or Wand of Gamelon. Wand of Ganon, maybe? Or is it Gamelon? I forget. It doesn't matter. They're absolutely horrible. Now, back in the day, I remember watching, and anyone who grew up like back in the 80s, 90s, you guys remember this? You probably do, but like QVC was actually, I don't know why as a kid, but that was sometimes fun to watch, especially when you didn't have a lot of channels. Like sometimes you'd watch QVC. Sometimes it was entertaining, especially like when they had people on there like selling basketball cards. That was really fun. Just because the hosts were really funny as well. That's a whole nother story. But I remember it was either on QVC or was a legit like paid programming infomercial for the Philips CDI. And I remember seeing on TV Hotel Mario and both of these Zelda games, and I was just like, where did this come from? Like, I don't even know about these Zelda games. You know, like as a kid, you're kind of freaking out because you absolutely love Zelda. And it's like, how'd this get by you? How do you not know about these games? And of course, like we didn't have internet yet. So they're showing these games on TV and you're getting to see like actual game footage of it, not screenshots. And I was just like so interested in playing these games. And even throughout like later in the 90s, even the early 2000s, I always had a desire to want to play these games. And then as the years went on, like more people had access to play these games. Everyone found out that they're complete trash. If you don't know the story, you know, Nintendo gave their license. They allowed these games to be made. They're not made by Nintendo. I think the license was released and Philips, I don't know if Philips made them or if it was like a first party of Philips. I don't know. The CDI was a big flop. I never ended up playing the CDI. I played a lot of systems, but I never played the CDI. You know, I played the OG TurboGrafx. I played the Panasonic 3DO back in the day. You know, the Sega CD, the OG Sega CD, the Saturn, the 32X. I mean, we played a lot of systems back in the day. The original Neo Geo. CDI was one that we never played. I think my video game store that I went to growing up, Gamers, never carried it. And rightfully so, because it was just trash. But at any rate, these games are complete trash. I would say do not seek them out. It's not worth it. It's not worth it to buy these games as a collector's item. There's nothing good about it. Stay very far away from it. Avoid it like the plague. I would not find any way to try and play these games. If you want, get on YouTube. There's plenty of people who played it, and you can see what it's like, and then you'll see that you never want to play this, okay? So I'm going to put this one, you know, legit, this is the only one that I've never played. And I have zero, like I said, zero desire to play it. So here you go, guys. That's my list. That's how I feel about the Legend of Zelda series. Yes, there's a lot of excellent games there. And there's a lot of great games. There's very few good. And there's a couple of okay. But that's the Legend of Zelda, man. Like, Zelda's gold to many people. It's the gold cartridge. It's the gold standard. And I have some of like my fondest gaming memories. And I haven't even shared all of my Zelda gaming memories with you here today. But I have probably, I'd say some of possibly the most fondest memories. It's right there with Mario and other Nintendo games, you know. As you guys know on this channel, like I play all video games. I play PlayStation, I play Xbox. But there's only one system like you can grow up on when you're growing up in the 80s and 90s. And of course that was Nintendo. And we had a Sega Genesis too. But Nintendo was magical, man. And you know that like if you grew up back in the day playing Nintendo games. So at any rate, I hope you guys enjoyed this. I hope I brought some nostalgia to you. You know, you took a trip down memory lane with me. And I'm going to be doing more of these kind of tier list rankings. Because, I mean, guys, I've played like everything for real. And so I want to talk about these games. I think it'd be fun to discuss. I want to hear what you guys think. Whether you agree with me or disagree with me. Either way, you're not going to hurt my feelings. Because, again, this is my opinion. I'm entitled to it. And guess what? You're entitled to yours. And if you don't agree, let me know what you think, you know? Put some comments below. I'll read them. I'll reply. I'm excited to hear what you guys have to say, all right? Once again, thanks for tuning in. And hey, if you liked what you saw today, please like the video, share with your friends and family, and subscribe to my YouTube channel. Thanks, and have a great day.